Hello, BookTube. Wee, wee. Oh. I have a Friday Reads for you. That noise you hear in the background is not your own dog destroying something. It's my dog destroying something. She's been destroying paper goods all day. And I should discourage her because this place is covered in paper goods that I don't want her to destroy. It's just random luck that she hasn't found one of them. But she enjoys it so much. I haven't had the heart, really, to discipline this dog about anything. Even important things like destroying paperwork or biting guests. What can I say? It's one of Steve's oldest rules. It is, in fact, Steve's oldest rule when dealing with my own people. I don't train my own dogs. I have at times made a very good living training the dogs of others. But I advocate the training of the dogs of others. Dogs very much like rules. They very much like structure. They very much like predictability. They like it. Training them towards those goals is not restricting them in any way. But I don't train my own dogs because we can talk. So I don't tend to do it. They're here for so short a time. And if any of you have ever lost one will know what I mean. They're here and gone. I can't summon the will myself to warp what they want to do. I teach them a basic command, one word, one single sound that means freeze solid. Don't ask why, don't look around, don't try and find out, just freeze solid. Don't even blink. Freeze like a block if I give you that command. And that's it. And that's all. And other than that, when I've had multiple dogs or bigger dogs, I have also taken them out into the nearest woods or, an old cemetery and trained them with an attack word, just in case we need it. A sound that they will never encounter anywhere except by me, and a sound that will only activate their command when it's made by me. But Frida's 10 pounds, so I'm not really going to do that. She's 10 pounds and she's incredibly nice. She's just the sweetest dog in the world. So she only has one command, and I drilled it into her head right away when she was much younger, and now we don't worry about it. All the rest of it, sit, stay, hey, don't do that, hey, leave that alone, not so much. Hey, Bean, I'm talking about you. What are you doing? Oh, Frida, don't lick your butt on camera. Got enough of that from some booktubers I could name. But anyway, I've got a Friday Reads for you. It's amorphous, as always. It's just a pile of books that are the next things that are coming into view on my horizon. So I will be reading them all night long tonight and all weekend long, with only one possible disruption in that plan. I am kind of sort of evolving a plan to go to the Battle Bookshop sometime this weekend. And if I do that, maybe one or two of those books will muscle in to this pile. But this pile only looks big. It's not really big if you don't do anything else. Keep that in mind. I don't do anything else. I don't have friends. I don't have family. I don't have significant others. I don't have any social obligations. I'm not even wearing pants. So all I do, aside from writing, and I'm kind of fast when it comes to writing. Aside from writing, reading is all I do. So this isn't as insane as it looks. So what do we got here? The first one? Oh yeah, the first three. I don't think I've read any of these. Oh, no, I have. I've read one of them. One of them is a reread. First three are fiction. And all three are historical fiction, because 2019 is just turning into a boffo year for science fiction. And this first one is a debut novel by Whitney Scherer, and it's about Man Ray. It's about the photographer Man Ray and the woman who was his muse and his assistant. This is The Age of Light. Very pretty thing. Tells the story of Vogue model turned renowned photographer Lee Miller and her search to forge a new identity as an artist after a life spent as a muse. I'd rather take a photograph than be one, she declares in 1929 upon her arrival in Paris, where she soon catches the eye of the famous surrealist Man Ray. Though he wants to use her only as a model, Lee persuades him to take her on as his assistant and teach her everything he knows. But Man Ray turns out to be an egotistical, charming force, and as they work together in the darkroom, their personal and professional worlds become intimately entwined, changing the course of Lee's life forever. And I'm wondering, it's not a deal breaker at all. I'm wondering if this is going to slot itself into that odd subgenre of historical fiction that we have seen in the last 15 years of historical fiction about women who take up with raging a-holes. Finding Frank, about Frank Lloyd Wright. It's probably the best-selling version, but there's The Aviator's Wife, there's The Paris Wife. There've been a number of them, of these I fell in love with an a-hole and you know his name type books. And I don't know if this will be that or not. I'll have to find out. But I'm thrilled to do it. It won't take me long to read. I'm looking forward to it. And this next one, also historical fiction, but what are you doing? Oh, Bean! I no sooner talked about training you. Oh, she's chewing on a book. Oh my God. Bean, don't do that. Here, come up on the bed. What's the matter with you? You can't chew on a book. And this is a book set in Iowa. What's wrong with you? Here, take something and eat it on the bed, all right? God help us. Anyway, as I was saying, this is a gonzo, a weird, Thomas Pynchon-esque, seems like, historical novel about the mid-20th century, Jackie Onassis, the Kennedy administration. Malcolm X, I think, is in here. Well, let me read it to you. It's by David Bowman, who died. He died of a cerebral hemorrhage in his 40s. I think in his 40s. Yeah, well, at age 54. He died too young from a cerebral hemorrhage in 2012 at age 54. He was born in Racine, Wisconsin in 1957, and his interest in writing first emerged when he was studying music at Interlochen Arts Academy. Many tales of the insufferably pretentious students who went to Interlochen, where he graduated with honors. He briefly attended Putney College in Vermont before moving to New York to write while working as a bartender and a clerk at a bookstore. His works include Let the Dog Drive, Bunny Modern, and This Must Be the Place. And he died early. And this is a big book of his called Big Bang. And it's you can sort of ignore the hideous cover, and it's an ingenious posthumous novel by award-winning author David Bowman. And the cover copy here calls it a colossal achievement, as cover copy will. Written with the intensity of a documentary, Big Bang follows the decade's most fascinating people as their lives are torn apart by post-war America's new normal. Lucille Ball is interrogated by the House Un-American Activities Committee as Jackie Kennedy enjoys a clandestine moonlight cruise with Frank Sinatra. Norman Mailer and Arthur Miller seek quickie divorces at a loophole resort in Nevada, and Howard Hunt snoops around in South America with the CIA. Young Jimi Hendrix, now the epitome of counterculture cool, tries his luck as a clear-cut army recruit. With funny and deeply heartfelt introduction by Jonathan Latham, Bowman's close friend, Big Bang presents a riotous account of a country perhaps at the beginning of the end. So this is, it's a sad occasion, of course, as you wish the author was out doing the press for his book. But it's a big, ambitious thing nonetheless, and it's on a period that I know fairly well. And then this last one comes out of the blue. I don't think I've ever heard of it. I don't think it's a debut. I think this author's written many things. Yeah, he's written many things, and he's a Boston author. And he runs, he's the artistic director of Grub Street. So it feels like I have probably been elbow to elbow with this guy at the Brattle or at some bookstore. I might have served him in a bookstore in decades gone past. But his name is Christopher Castellani, and this is Leading Men. Look at that cover. And this is another historical novel. This is also set in the mid-century. In July of 1953, at a glittering party thrown by Truman Capote in Portofino, Italy, Tennessee Williams and his longtime lover Frank Merlo meet Anja Blomgren, a mysterious young Swedish beauty and aspiring actress. Their encounter will go on to alter all of their lives. 10 years later, Frank revisits the tempestuous events of that fateful summer from his deathbed in Manhattan, where he waits anxiously for Tennessee to visit him one final time. Anja, now legendary film icon Anja Bloom, lives as a recluse in present-day America until a young man connected to the events of 1953 lures her reluctantly back into the spotlight after he discovers she possesses the only copy of an unknown play, Tennessee Williams' Last. This sounds like a lot of fun, and I don't think I knew anything about it. I don't think I knew this was coming. So those are the first three. They are all historical fiction, and here you stay away from the books. Rita. Stay away from the books. Ooh, stay away from the books. Up you go. Up you go. Oh, you willful little monster. Oh, you stay away from the books. The floor is covered in paper for you to chew. You can't chew books. Well, you can't. Oh. You can if you want to, but I wish you wouldn't. Here, you just sit right there. There you go. I'm not exactly covering myself in glory here. All right, but the next three are nonfiction. And the first one is by William Davies, and it's a type of book that we've seen already. We've seen it a couple of times just in the last week. This one is called Nervous States, Democracy and the Decline of Reason. And it's another one of those kinds of books that are all about the fragility of democratic systems and the importance of civility and the importance of responsible civics. But what they're really about is Donald Trump. They wouldn't exist if he hadn't put the fear of God into a whole bunch of people who thought that a whole bunch of things in America were completely solid, on solid ground. Turns out that's not true. It turns out we've had the office of the presidency and the powers of the president of the United States have been governed by custom a lot more than people wanted to remember, until suddenly it became important that not be true. And I'm hoping the ideal situation here, I don't think it will happen. The ideal situation that I can imagine is that in 2020, the Democrats retain control of the House of Representatives and take control of the Senate by overwhelming numbers. And if that happens, I don't think it will, but if it happens, I would really hope that one of the first things on their agenda would be to completely revamp those customs regarding the U.S. president and make sure that they are laws, the breaking of which is illegal, so that if a president does it, he can be immediately taken out of the room. Same thing as if he slapped somebody. The president should not be able to have totally unrecorded conversations with the dictator of a foreign enemy adversarial country. That shouldn't be possible. Whether right now it falls under the informal purview of the president handling foreign affairs, that has to stop. The only reason that there aren't laws against that is because it was assumed for 200 years that you would, no matter what, no matter how bad the person was, you would never have a president who put himself ahead of the country. Not completely. Nefarious schemes here and there, breaking the law here and there, yes, but not the country can go to hell as far as I'm concerned as long as I get what I want. That is monstrous, and no one anticipated that, and they certainly didn't anticipate the concurrence of a president like that and a Senate willing to do anything he says in order to give themselves tax-free existence. So you got it scared all of these books into existence. They're the explicit ones commenting directly on Trump's administration, Trump's apparatchiks and his shady deals and whatnot. And then these larger theoretical ones where I'm sure that William Davies thinks that he's writing this about democracy and the decline of reason. But I guarantee you that if I were to venture to the index at the back, I would find Trump all over it like yellow fever. And that's not a deal breaker at all. I'm reading, like I mentioned last time we uncovered one of these books, I think it was yesterday, I'm reading all of these books. In a way, I think they are important. In a way, as a literary phenomenon, I think they are important. And some of them might be really good. I've encountered some that were. Most of them are not. Most of them bear telltale signs of having been rushed to print, which is really bad on a number of levels. If we're going to discuss the lifeblood of the United States and the health of the Republic, you shouldn't be rushing to print to do it. And on another level, oh God, it's even worse. Because on another level, it's Trumpism. It's these authors saying, hey, if I don't jump now, I will lose my chance to make a buck. And I don't really care if the country goes to hell in a handbasket. I would like a book contract, please. I don't know what kind of this kind of book this will be, but it won't take me long to read. And I have found some fascinating reading in these things, so I will be doing that. Then the next book, the next nonfiction book, is a reread. I read it originally, the advanced copy, and I'm very much looking forward to reading it again, because the advanced copy I really liked. And this is by Amy Greenberg, and it is Lady First. And believe it or not, it is a biography and a historical study of President Polk's wife, Sarah. It was roundly rejected by every editor in Christendom that I approached as being much too obscure, even for me. And yet, when I read it, I really liked it. I am a fan, as you all know, if you watch this channel for any length of time, I'm a fan of books about the U.S. presidency. I've read an enormous number of them, more, I guarantee you, than Amy Greenberg has, more than most scholars that I know. And I love it when an author approaches a person, a president, a first lady, a secretary of state, something like that, and gives me a new angle, something that I can't immediately knock down. A lot of them don't. Most of them don't. Most of them, they come up with a weird new angle, and I can tell in the first two sentences, well, okay, that's not true. So all the rest of this book isn't going to be true. The case made in this book, and it's made wonderfully. First of all, this is an incredibly well-written book. I strongly recommend it on that grounds alone. This author never lets up. She never lets up. Even the best presidential books tend to have long years, and this one doesn't. But the general overview idea she has is that Sarah Polk wanted to reinvent the position of First Lady, make it less ribald, less partisan, less sordid, to introduce the idea that if you are the First Lady, then you are sort of the hostess of the country, and you should behave accordingly. Now, she came to the White House after a long period, the longest period in U.S. history, where there was no First Lady governing Washington society, no one of substance. There was, President Tyler's second wife was a bit of an airhead, and there were widowers who didn't have a First Lady before him. So she came to a Washington that was, on one level, this author makes a very good case that she came to a Washington that was kind of hungry for that role to be filled again, and maybe extra willing for it to be filled by a formidable person who wasn't interested in being everybody's jolly friend. The portrait ends up being wonderful. I have, of course, President Polk is waiting for his big, David McCullough Truman volume, his big 800-page popular history presidential biography. He's waiting for that. It might wait forever. He doesn't deserve to wait forever. None of them do. No U.S. president deserves to wait forever. They should all have books like that, multiple books like that. In the hands of a good historian, I assure you that President Polk would easily warrant that 800-page book. Until we get that, this is I'm greatly looking forward to reading it again, because it was a delight the first time through, and I'm sure I missed a lot. And as usual, with the second time through with the finished copy, this is when I will also bear down on the sources. When I will bear down on the bibliography and really sift through it. I don't tend to do that on first readings. I tend to go more for what the author's trying to do, what a general audience reader will encounter when they encounter this book, whatever the book is. The general audience reader probably isn't going to turn straight to the bibliography and the endnotes and start rifling through them and going back to the presidential bookcase to double check things. So I usually wait to do that until the second read through. That's what this will be. And then the last one is this great big thing. I got the finished copy of Isser Wallach's The Post-War Moment, which is his this is Oxford? No, Yale. This is his big study of Britain and France in the wake of World War II, who decided and were prodded by events to embrace a progressive new way of governing their countries. They had a choice, as the author puts it, they had a choice of going back to the old ways before the war, or embracing the idea of something new and trying that. Full employment, subsidized housing, and nationalizing certain industries, all sorts of things that had been, floated and tabled in the years before the war, and now all of a sudden seem possible. And the inventive thing about this book, there have been many books on that subject, and innumerable books on the welfare state in England. But the inventive thing about this is that the author says that a variation of that happened in America as well. This is the post-war moment here is he's actually including 3 countries, not just 2. The usual focus on this sort of thing is on 2 countries, on France and Britain. And this includes America, and I can't wait to I've had the advanced copy of this and just ignored it. And I mean not to do that now that I have the finished copy. Of course, the subject raises a bit of irritation with me because I to this day wish that those countries, France, Britain, and America, had not been quite so concerned, quite so obsessively concerned with those internal revampments, those internal reprogramming of old ways. I think in the immediate post-war decade, they should have been paying a lot more attention to Russia than they were. A lot more of their attention should have been diverted outward instead of inward. And that in books like this, that thread running through here always frustrates me. There's no way to. It's crying over spilt milk. But I just wish. Whenever I read a book like this, I just wish that somehow the past could be changed so that in 1944, 1943, 1942, all the people who had power in the West recognized that Stalin was every bit as bad as Hitler, and that an alliance of convenience with this monster would only be to your long-term detriment. Now, it turned out that it was. Yes, Hitler led Germany into World War II and convulsed the whole world in violent, bitter warfare, and of course the Holocaust and a bunch of other stuff. But the damage Stalin did was much worse and much longer. And it was because of the Western countries just sort of looked away or considered, look, we're in a slogging match already on 2 hemispheres. The last thing we need is another enemy, especially an enormous one who doesn't care enough not to field 1 million people. Anyway, that's not the book this author is writing. So I will be reading the book this author is writing, all about what that post-war moment, really decade, was like. What was it like? What were the choices involved? And maybe, like with other books in this pile, maybe a new way for me to think about it. That's always fun. So that is my a kind of a Friday reads for today. We have the post-war moment. We have Lady First, which I'll be going at for the second time. I'll be enjoying it, I'm sure, even more. What a book. I hope that the book coverage on it is not universally, oh, it's too obscure. I hope it gets some coverage, because it really deserves it. And then Nervous States, another what hath Trump wrought book. I'm sure that the author will cast his net wide. I'm sure that the Tocqueville will be in here, but still, with authors like that and books like this, they are pretty much only concerned with Donald Trump. They just maybe don't want to write a totally focused screed or polemic about him. They probably want to ground it in broader topics, and some of them do it quite well, so I will give it a try. Then Leading Men, historical fiction about Tennessee Williams. Then The Big Bang, historical fiction about Jackie O and Frank Sinatra. And then The Age of Light, historical fiction about Man Ray and his whole time and the Paris of that day, the left bank of that day. What I'm hoping that the author does a great job evoking it all. And I will find out. I will find out very soon. Like I said, the only thing that will derail any of these books will be if I go to the Brattle bookshop and I find treasure. In which case, you'll be the first to know. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.